Hey everyone, and welcome to the SummerSlam After Party here on Sunday night's main event. What a show on a night that we saw some betrayals, on a night that we saw some redemptions, on a night that we saw some weirdness, on a night that we saw some questionable booking and questionable in-ring stuff. Well, here we are. We're going to be chatting all things SummerSlam here on the SNME After Party. Welcome. Whether you're listening to us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or even podcast, I hope that you enjoyed the show. And we are your hosts. I'm Boris, and I am joined on this very special night by Eric B. Eric, how's it going?
It is going very well, friends, listeners, viewers tonight, also, and newcomers. Thank you so much for joining me and the man Boris. We are here for your after party. We are here to party down. We are here to break things down. We're going to talk about the slam of the summers. We're going to talk about what we liked about the show, which is going to be very minimal in my case, and what we did not like about the show, which is also going to be a lot in my case. So, by
Yep.
all means, sit down as I weave a story of wonder for me and Boris
I
to enjoy. Boris, I am done. Go ahead, my friend.
I love it. It was a very interesting show, that's for sure. And I'm kind of glad that we're doing this show literally right after, because if I get to sleep on it, right? Sometimes I think that I would be a little nicer to the show, but you know what? It's not all bad. But it was just one of those shows that just felt very weird, and we're gonna get to all that. And remember, you can leave us your feedback via chat, and also if you are a patron, in your Patreon mailbox you have a link, and in that link you can join us when it's time for feedback. I already see that Tom's waiting, and Tom will get to you a little later. We're also gonna have someone who was there at the show give us their impression of the night and how everything was going. And just remember that on the flagship show tomorrow, that is Sunday, I'm going to be talking with Chris Van Vliet, who was also at the show, and he's got tons to talk about. We were texting as the show was going on, and yeah, it's going to be a very, very fun chat tomorrow on the flagship show. So, again, thank you to everyone who is listening, watching, wherever you are. It's going to be a very interesting chat. So, Eric, just off the top, I know that we'll run through the results in a little bit, but thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Where would you go?
I mean, I'm going to go with thumbs in the middle, right? Because I don't want to be too much of a naysayer. I don't want to be a negative Nelly. My name is Eric, right? So I can't get away with being a negative Nelly all the time. So I don't want to be too down about it. So I'm going to say thumbs middle. And that definitely goes ahead with what we were talking about before we went live. I definitely see this pay-per-view as far as the luster of what SummerSlam should be. I just don't think that this show really connected there. I think that we were a little bit mid throughout. I think we had some really cool high spots and some great matches. A lot of surprises, really, too. If you listen to the Raw review every week, you probably heard me and Randy break down predictions for the show. I'm pretty sure that I was wrong about 99% of them. So the show, it was missing some things that I definitely wanted. But at the same time, being surprised isn't a bad thing all the time. I like to be surprised. I like to be wrong sometimes, Boris. Being too much of a smart mark does not make it fun to watch.
That's the problem sometimes. And I know, like, the way that we view, especially us hosting the show, taking notes, and all of that stuff, our how we perceive the show might be very different from someone who just sat down and enjoyed it, right? And that goes with a lot of people even listening to that show. So sometimes I like hearing that casual fans approach and view of the show. But I think you raised a great point, and that's, a lot of this card was very predictable heading into tonight. We were talking about this last week in the long preview, and it's one of those things that it's just we kind of knew. We knew too much of the results, and our gut of guts and a heart of hearts, whatever you want to say, we were right for the most part. The only match where I was kind of like iffy on was Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, and to me, that's the match that actually I was actually the most excited about.
Yeah, it was a great match. I also think that Cody and Brock gave us a really good match and a good payoff. And the story, it was really neat to see Brock actually give the flowers to Cody, shake somebody's hand. That's just something we rarely see with the Beast himself. So We had some really good matches. I think that Logan Paul Ricochet as well was a good surprise. Logan won, which really surprised me. I think that Ricochet is definitely in like the biggest push of his career. So I thought he was definitely going to take this one, man. I don't know about you, but that was probably the biggest surprise of the night for me.
Yeah, I had a feeling that Logan Paul was gonna win, but I think I was more shocked at how damn good that match was, and I knew it was going to be good, but it still surpassed my expectations. So, without further ado, let's just get to the results so then we can get your feedback. And just remember your feedback. If you're a patron member, go to your patron email, and if you're watching us anywhere else, you know what? Just send a message to me privately in the DMs. Hit up my DM and I'll send you a link and so that we can get your feedback. All right. So, the pre-show, nothing to it. So let's just get to the main card. Kid Rock narrated the opening video. Michael Cole checked in on commentary and was accompanied by Corey Graves. Samantha Irvin delivered the introductions for the opening match, which was Logan Paul versus Ricochet. An excellent way to start the match. And Tom, you're 100% right when you say that Logan Paul is in Dallas already, so the show went too damn long. I love that. That is actually kind of funny. That is actually hilarious. All right.
Yeah, that is.
So, so Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Overall, like we said, I think this match, probably the second best match of the night for me. Very cool stuff. Great story overall. And, Logan Paul just continues to impress.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. He threw that ridiculous, I don't even know what would you call it? Like a springboard off of the top ropes, assisted tornado DDT that you've probably seen a million creator wrestlers do in WWE 2K, but you've never seen in real life. So it's really sickening how good this guy is for how little time that he's actually had in the ring, right? So we know that the Paul brothers, they train meticulously. If they want to do something, they're going to do it really, really well. But to see him actually pull this off in the ring and on these major stages, opening up the show nonetheless, I think that everybody expected the Battle Royal to open up the show. So to get this as a hot start to tonight's show for a long card, it definitely did a good service, not only to us watching at home, but the people that were watching in the arena.
Yep, that's exactly. And spectacular performance by Ricochet on his selling. His selling was master class. It was so
Mhm.
damn good, and I absolutely love that. And it really kind of, made that end of the match that much more special. It was really great. So Ricochet went up. He's selling the rib pains. He goes for a shooting star press, but because he's going so slow, this gives Paul time to put up his knees. Paul rolls Ricochet into a pin for a near fall. Paul goes for a punch. Ricochet catches him with a kick. He performs a detonation kick. Then he did a moonsault from the middle of the rope for another near fall. Ricochet dragged Paul to the opposite corner, starts kicking him. Ricochet went up top. He goes for a 630. Paul avoids that also, and then we see this random person appear, all with the hoodie and everything, puts a pair of brass knuckles on Paul's hand. Then Paul blasted Ricochet with a punch, got the win, and that was that. Eric, the power of the punch strikes again. Logan Paul over Ricochet in 18 minutes.
Hey, let's see what happens with Jake tonight, right? I think that Jake and Nate Diaz are just about to hit the ring, if not in the ring right now. I haven't been able to get anything about that. I think it's live currently, but I haven't been able to get anything about that fight. So I like the way that they work in the one punch here for Logan, but it's so funny that that's his finisher when you see all the other amazing things that this guy can do. Because man, if they worked in a different finisher for Logan Paul, I think it'd be so much better than that one lucky punch.
Yeah, right? But it kind of keeps everything and everyone at a good level, right? He cheated to win and makes Ricochet look strong because Paul got the cheat, but Logan Paul also finally got a win. That's something that he hasn't really been able to do much of in WWE. So,
It's true.
win-win, I think, for both guys.
Yeah, it's true. 4 last matches, he couldn't get the win, so it's kind of necessary for him to get that win. Also, very nice of WWE to throw him on for the first fight and then let him get that private jet all the way to Dallas.
Right? As soon as I noticed that he was in the open, I'm like, oh, he's going to go to Dallas real quick. That's clearly what happened. All right. Then we got a video package recapping the Lesnar versus Rhodes story and feud up till today. Excellent, excellent video package. I just want to call that out because I absolutely love this video package. Great song, great montage, great everything. Really well done. Let's jump straight to the match. Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. This match, you know what? I like this match a lot. I like the fact that it was, this is Cody Rhodes. He it's kind of like in Mega Man where he's now in Dr. Wily's castle and he has to beat all the bosses. And Brock Lesnar is just a boss that Cody has to beat to get back to the title picture. And that's exactly the story that they went here, where Brock Lesnar just wanted to kick Cody's ass for the hell of it. And I think that was his motivation. I honestly,
Yeah.
a lot of people were saying, why does Brock hate Cody? Well, he just does. Does there have to be another reason?
Yeah, there's literally no reason why he has to. He's the beast. Cody comes in, he's the baby face. He's taking like a claim to the title, a claim to the throne, where really Brock himself is, the head honcho, the big hoss, the guy that he is the final boss, man. That's the guy that you have to pass through to really be taken seriously as a championship threat. I also love the way that we just see Brock just doing whatever he wants to in Cody in this match. He's just making shit up. He literally is just beeling Cody over the top of his head, and Cody's just going flying. Like, I love that shit, dude. When you make something look completely real and it's not just an assisted suplex and the guy is literally being thrown around like a rag doll. Again, it gave you more of a belief that Cody was really in trouble in this match. Side note, thank God that Brock Lesnar is wearing underwear during the match because he gets a very strange tear to his shorts. He goes through hell in this match to the point where his shorts are almost disintegrated off of his body. I
It
love this
reminded
match,
me
man.
of that classic Homer Simpson walking and his pants are just literally disintegrating. It's like that's what it felt like. That's what it looked like. And like I said, thank God we didn't see Brock's Lesnar's.
Yeah.
And again, throughout the entire match, Gutsman himself, as Denji says, all he wanted to do was beat Cody up, send him to the outside, get the count out. He didn't even want to get the pin. He just wanted to win the match by any means necessary. So Lesnar takes Cody down with a Kimura lock. Cody eventually reached the bottom rope to break the top of to break it. Back in the ring, Cody hits a disaster kick. He follows up with a Cody cutter. He ran to the top rope and does another Cody cutter, which leads to a near fall. Lesnar takes Cody down with a second Kimura lock. Eventually, he
Yep.
reaches the bottom rope to break it again. He does a Kimura lock of his own. Lesnar kind of teased the tap in, but he drove Cody into the mat, breaks the hold. Lesnar hoisted up Cody for an F5. Cody slipped out, hits the crossroads, hits another crossroads, hits a third crossroads for the win in 17 minutes, 35 seconds. Great match, but yeah, I thought the exposed turnbuckle was gonna have more of a say to end this match.
Yeah, you would always think so, right? But we all know it's a rule of thumb. As soon as Cody hits anywhere from two plus crossroads in a row, there's no way that he's losing the match, right? So as that third crossroad hits, it's like odds in sports betting. It's like 2.5 crossroads or more, and Cody is winning the match. We knew Cody was going to win this match going into it. We probably didn't expect it to happen in such a way where it's almost entirely clean how it finishes off. I hope this means that we're still going to see more Brock Lesnar, and I hope it means that Brock gets a little bit of time off, a little hiatus, so we can remember what he really means to the business and how much money he draws to the business, and we still get him at the major pay-per-views, man. So it was a great end to the story. Hopefully this can move Cody forward and get him back into the title picture for the next WrestleMania.
Yep. That's exactly it. That's what I'm hoping. And, a lot of people said this isn't going to benefit Cody, but I think at the end of the match, it kind of gave us some payoff in some shape or form. And that's because Lesnar and Cody are just staring at each other. Lesnar kind of, that he's not sure what to think. And then he goes up to Cody. They go face to face. And eventually they shake hands and hug. And that was that.
Side note though, I did go see the Barbie movie today, and I have no idea why Cody was not in the Barbie movie as a Ken. Like that is your prototypical Ken there in the ring. That is wrestler Ken for sure. So it's good to see wrestler Ken pick up the win here against Guts Man.
Well, the issue is that Cody was Kenneth.
Terrible.
The
That's the worst.
SummerSlam Slim Jim Battle Royal. The entrants were AJ Styles, The Miz, Austin Theory, Karrion Kross, who looked a lot like CM Punk, Cameron Grimes, Apollo Crews, Santos Escobar, Tommaso Ciampa, Ridge Holland, Butch, Sheamus, Matt Riddle, Grayson Waller, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bronson Reed, Eric Ivar, JD McDonough, Rick Boogs, Otis, Chad Gable, Ludwig Kaiser, and Giovanni Vinci, along with Omos and L.A. Knight.
My God. That's a lot. That's a lot just for like one match of a pay-per-view. That's really, listen, this is the Slim Jim Battle Royal. Okay. So I always think that these battle royals are funny when they don't really mean anything to the winner. Again, it was almost written entirely in stone who we were going to see win this one, right? And I'm sure you'll get into the results. And I'm not surprised by anything that happened in this match. I think it's cool for people who are live in attendance. You get to see a lot more people on the card than you probably expected to see live. But I don't know, Boris. What do you think? Did this match mean really anything besides just being a fun gimmick match for all of us at home?
Not at all. Not at all. It had zero repercussions. The winner doesn't even get a year's supply of Slim Jims.
Not even a week supply. Not even
Not even a
one
night's
macho.
supply.
Not even one macho size Slim Jim is provided to the winner. Not even one Chris Boucher from the Toronto Raptors branded Slim Jim. Get him at Walmart, folks, is available here for the winner. And yeah, it really means nothing, but it's a way to progress the obvious winner here to continue to be like the next guy.
Yep. So this wasn't the worst battle royal, but let's just jump to the important stuff. Omos, bunch of wrestlers hit moves on him. They join forces. They eventually eliminate him. Waller and Miz had a moment. They tried to eliminate Gable. He held on. Miz threw Knight over the top rope, but Knight held on. Styles hits Cross with a pillow kick to knock him off and eliminate him. Reed eliminates Gable. So we're kind of seeing some of the feuds from the shows into this match, which is kind of cool. The final four were Knight, Reed, Styles, and Sheamus. Knight pulled Reed over the top rope from the apron, and he's out. Styles avoids a bro kick. He sets up for a phenomenal forearm, but Karrion Kross is back. Held his legs. Sheamus boots him off, and that was it. The last two were Knight and Sheamus. Pretty good back and forward between the two. Knight runs up the ropes, superplex Sheamus. Then he eliminates Sheamus by clotheslining him over the top rope just a little while after that. 11 minutes, 55 seconds. LA Knight wins. Eric, I have to ask you, and everyone listening, leave us your thoughts on this question. Does WWE think that giving LA Knight this random win in a useless match, in a useless battle royal, make up for his lack of push everywhere else?
I guarantee you that not WWE thinks this way, but I guarantee you that Vince McMahon thinks this way. I guarantee you that Vince sees this as like a big win on a grand stage. And honestly, this is a match that belongs on SmackDown, Raw, maybe even a house show. Honestly, it's not the type of match that is going to bring you any extra luster to your name. It's not going to give him the title push that he deserves. He's not the guy. They had to put the briefcase into Priest's hands. It just made the most sense to do it. But honestly, that's where LA Knight deserved it. And if this is your message of vindication, then it's a crock, man. Like it
Yep.
is a smack in the face to not only, LA Knight, but us as fans also. How much longer we have to wait to see this actually turn into something that is serious? The guy isn't even getting a US title run. Like,
I
come
know.
on, man. Give us something.
That's the painful part at this point, right? And just hearing that crowd reaction, hearing 50K people just yell LA Knight constantly, yeah, yelling for him. It's insane that they just constantly just don't want to do anything with this. And it's so frustrating as a fan because a year ago we thought that things would be different. And here we are a year later, we're right back to the same BS.
Vince is back and he's there influencing the writers, and we're seeing rewrites mid-show in the weekly programming. It famously happened about a month ago when Seth was being told to change his promo mid-commercial and was like, I don't want to do this. So we're going to see nonsensory like this happen with Vince there in the back. Unfortunately, right? But at the same time, I'm not a Vince hater, right? I just think that as of right now, he's not as in tune with the product as he needs to be. And we know that Vince is not a fan of guys who are not homegrown stars. And
Yep.
if you know LA Knight, you know Eli Drake, and you know that man is not a homegrown star for WWE whatsoever. He did a lot of their work in their video games, though, as far as the dummies in the video games who are actually used as the sprites. LA Knight did a lot of those moves. And it's funny that I say dummy because everybody knows LA Knight loves to call people dummies.
Yep. And then the show at this point, I'm like, man, this is a pretty good show. This is a pretty good show. And then Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler happened in an MMA match. We were talking about this right before we went live, Eric. And this match got to me for so many reasons. Like, call this an MMA match. You know that number one, like I can't stand when they do these MMA type matches in a wrestling type of environment because we know it's worked, we know it's not legit, yada yada yada, And not only did they leave the ropes on, not only did they not do the fight pit, it just felt awkward. It felt over choreographed. It just didn't feel good. It didn't look good, and this honestly threw the entire momentum of the show way off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think again, me and Randy talked about it this week on the Draw Straws review, and we were worried, man. Like, this match could have been so much better, so much cooler if you would have just given them like an opportunity to really just slug away at each other, which you didn't. You gave them ridiculous rules and you put them inside of a wrestling ring. It's like playing a tennis game inside of a wrestling ring, man. Tennis rules. It's the same thing. It was nonsense. This is going to be Ronda's last match potentially ever with WWE, and I don't know what it did for Shayna Baszler. I don't think it did anything.
Look, I understand what they tried to do. I really do. This was their moment to put Shayna Baszler over. She gets her arm injured and she comes back from adversity to eventually win, right? By the way,
Yeah,
she won. And she not only won, but she made Ronda tap out. Should be this huge moment, but just because everything felt so off, it feel like the moment just got lost in this void of awkwardness.
again, it's one of those it's one of those things, sorry, where the build up to this match was far better than the match itself. The promo work that Shayna Baszler was doing about Ronda and her family and all of that stuff leading up to this match, it just was far better than the actual match itself. These two women should have been able to just beat the shit out of each other and given us an incredible match. Unfortunately, we had to choreograph things far too much.
It was a little too choreographed, and that was that. That's all we can really say about that match. And it really hurt this next match because this next match was a match that I was looking forward to. There's nothing more than I love more than two big, beefy guys just kicking the living shit out of each other. And that was Gunther versus Drew McIntyre for the Intercontinental Championship. And honestly, just because of how bad the previous match was, nothing this match did was bad. The story was fine. Everything was fine. The in-ring was fine. It was a good match, but I was just so drawn out of it because of the previous MMA match, using air quotes for those listening on a podcast.
Yeah, I think that you know what, like these pay-per-views, these the big four pay-per-views are long, right? We're looking at anywhere between 4.5 hours if you include the pre-show, especially with the people who are there in the arena. You're there for 5.5 hours sometimes, and the shows get long, they get drawn out, and if the cards aren't placed well together, then unfortunately, a really bad match is going to affect the next one that's just a good match. Like it was a good match between these two guys. The biggest problem that this match had, and actually, you know what? There was two big problems. The first one is that WrestleMania gave us just such a great three-way for the Intercontinental Championship with Sheamus, McIntyre, and Gunther. That was probably one of my favorite matches of the year. Definitely a top five. And then Raw leading up to this, Chad Gable put on just an incredible match with Gunther, an amazing display. And all it made me think to myself is how badly I would rather have seen Chad Gable at SummerSlam versus Gunther for the title than Drew McIntyre. Kind of again, almost like repeating the product once over again. But I did think Gunther was going to lose this one. Leading up to this, I thought this was going to be the end of Gunther's reign as an IC championship. Like I thought that was going to be the last match that he was defending this belt. So I'm surprised.
I don't know. I just knew that Gunther was gonna somehow win. But you know what the problem with this match was? Now that I'm thinking about it and looking through my notes a little more, it was like going to a concert and just getting the best hits of a band, right? It was good,
Yeah.
but they didn't do anything special, right? Like you just knew what was gonna happen, and that's what both of these guys gave. Chop fest, claymore kicks, couple power bombs, couple splashes, couple kicks out, rinse and repeat, and that's exactly what you saw in this match, right? Like I'm not gonna go blow by blow, but I just covered about 2/3 of the match, right? McIntyre puts Gunther on the top turnbuckle, chops him twice. McIntyre went to the middle rope, set up for a move that Gunther blocked. They start
Yeah.
chopping the crap out of each other again. Gunther shoves McIntyre off the ropes. McIntyre was crotched on the top rope. Gunther performs a top rope splash, does a lariat, power bomb, wins in 13 minutes 40 seconds to retain the IC title. So again, good match. Nothing wrong with it. A lot of the momentum was just washed away after the women's MMA match, and this match again, it wasn't bad, but it just didn't captivate me the way that I thought it would have.
The thing is, it wasn't even an MMA match. It was MMA rules, right? So
Yes,
it's like bunkhouse bunkhouse brawl rules. It's just like so
yes,
ridiculous out of nowhere. But we're not going to change anything about the match at all. At least, like, look, on Raw a few weeks back, they did the Viking rules match and they dressed up the ring. They added a giant ship to a part of it, right? That the guys could do amazing spots out of. So even that match had more like invested into it than that past MMA rules match. So, oh man, that was probably the worst of the night for sure.
yep. For me, it was. And the next match that we're going to be talking about was probably the best match of the night, at least for me. And that was for the World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Finn Balor comes out alone. Judgment Day isn't out to start the match. And these two had a really good, fun back and forth match.
Yeah, it was a good match. It's what we would expect out of these two guys. But as much as you mentioned like how good the match was, you also mentioned who wasn't there at the beginning and who wasn't, prominently featured here at SummerSlam really at all. And Judgment Day, after like the amazing push that they've gotten on TV for the last 2 months, we just we didn't see what we wanted to see. I didn't see, sorry, what I wanted to see out of them for this card at all.
Yeah, you thought Rhea Ripley wasn't gonna have a match, right? But I don't know that's a cure. It's another like very interesting thing that they're doing with Rhea Ripley and her championship, where she's kind of like above the women's division right now. We'll talk
Yeah,
about that probably tomorrow on the main show. But it's just this match was fun. And like I say, this was the only match of the card that I really wasn't sure who was gonna win. So I like this, and I kind of like the storytelling. Balor was going for the barricade bomb. It was the move that injured him 7 years ago. He stuffs Rollins stuffs it, but he actually does it later on, and they have a bunch of back and forth. Then that's when Damian Priest eventually starts walking to the ring, carrying the Money in the Bank briefcase. Balor rolls up a very distracted Seth Rollins for a 2 count. Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley hop the barricade and they distract the referee. Priest offers Balor the briefcase. Balor says nah. Rollins knocked Priest off the apron. Balor tried to roll up Rollins, who slipped away and stomped him, which led to a very close near fall. Rollins takes out Priest with a top rope dive and then super kicks Dom at ringside. Back in the ring, Balor hit a sling blade clothesline and then hit a coup de grace and covers Rollins for a damn close fall. Priest puts the briefcase in the ring. He then goes on the apron on the other side of the ring to distract the referee. Balor reaches for the briefcase, but Rollins stomps Balor's head on top of it and gets the win in 18 minutes, 30 seconds. I really did like the ending to this, and I just loved Damian Priest's face after the match. It was like, you idiot.
Yeah, he definitely looked like he saw a ghost after the match. There's a picture going around online actually about it that's definitely going to be meme worthy. It was a good ending to the match for sure. The way that they incorporated the briefcase, I thought that we were going to get a cash in tonight for sure, and I thought that they were going to try to even maybe go an entirely crazy direction. Like you said, Rhea being potentially above the women's division right now had me thinking that they might even have Rhea steal the briefcase or demand the briefcase from Damian Priest and try to cash in on Seth herself. I thought that could have happened. I don't think WWE would pull that trigger, but man, if they ever did, I listen, the eruption in that crowd, if something like that happened, man, it would be impossible to silence the crowd after that. So I would think that would be really cool. It will never happen, but I thought that's something at least to the level of Priest cashing in on Finn Balor was going to happen tonight, 100%. So when that didn't happen, big surprise for me for sure.
Yeah. And actually, seeing that Damian Priest didn't cash in, I knew we were going to get a cash in for the next match. And that was
Mhm.
for the WWE Women's Championship, Asuka versus Bianca Belair versus Charlotte Flair. Again, this match seemed slow, overbooked, sloppy. It was an okay match, but it just wasn't at that, especially right now with pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever you want to call them. The in-ring has been spectacular, but this match just didn't have that.
No, and then they were also doing the whole injury kind of angle during the match as well. I feel like everybody recently is pushing this. Are they injured or are they not injured angle? You've seen AEW do it a lot recently. They did it last weekend with Buddy Murphy and Andrade. They made it seem like Murphy was injured. He threw out his shoulder, but he didn't. It was just gimmick. So I'm not always a fan of the "are you injured or are you not" angle in my matches in wrestling. I also just don't see the reason to move the title to somebody else just to have the cash in happen. Like the cash in could have
That
happened on the current champion.
100%. I wonder what the reason for that was, but it kind of now, like, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. So, like you said, Flair tosses Belair over the top rope and she sells some knee pain. She gets escorted out by some refs and trainers. Um, you
Yeah.
know, the two just, Flair spears Asuka, covers her for a 2 count. We get a figure eight. Belair is coming back. She's limping. She goes up top, does a 450 splash onto Flair, because, that's how fast you can recover from an injury. Asuka rolls to the floor. Belair and Flair trade forearm strikes. Belair avoids some punches, goes for the KOD. Flair rolls out. Flair comes back with a figure eight. Asuka returns to the ring. Blue mist into Flair's face. Asuka threw a kick at Belair, who ducks it, hooks Asuka into an inside cradle, and got the 3 count to become the new WWE Women's Championship in 20 minutes, 45 seconds. Right after the match, moments later, Io Sky runs out with the Money in the Bank briefcase with Bayley, and she cashes it in because we get Bianca Belair versus Io Sky for the WWE Women's Championship. Sky hits her top rope moonsault and becomes the champion in 8 seconds. So again, Bianca Belair wins. Minutes later, she loses the title. Like you said, Eric, I would have much preferred to see Io Sky come in at the very end, insert herself into the match, a la Seth Rollins, and win like that. This was kind of weird. Or Asuka win and she cashes against Asuka, right? Like, to me, just like, I don't know. This just didn't land. I'm not sure whether they wanted to try to keep Asuka strong or Belair strong because of that quote unquote injury, but I just didn't like the way that this worked.
No. And also it was one of those matches when you look at this card in total, right? There's going to be one of the matches that unfortunately isn't going to really captivate as much as they probably wanted to. And I think that this match kind of automatically went into that category, unfortunately. Again, Asuka is one of those competitors who deserved a good title run, deserved a good showing, and she got a vindication title run in this last one that she had here. But unfortunately, it just ended up meaning really nothing. Like, it was quick, easy, done for her. Moved it on to Bianca Belair for whatever reason, just to move it on to somebody else. Maybe that has to do something with what we're seeing with this kind of reignited Hurt business potentially that the Street Profits are doing with Bobby Lashley. The one thing that I do know, Boris, is that Kairi Sane is apparently making her way back to WWE, and the Io Sky Kairi Sane feud is going to slap.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's hope that they don't manage to screw this up, because I'm hoping that this is what happens. But sometimes I just have no faith, and after tonight, it's just like, ugh, my faith is a little off. But again, I'm not angry or anything. It just, I think that some things have run its course, and you know what's run its course? The amount of interference and overbooking in Roman Reigns matches. I love the fact that the commentators, so we're going to talk about this right now. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Tribal Combat for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. I love the fact that the commentators made a point to tell us how shit of a champion Roman Reigns is, since he hasn't had a one-on-one match since WrestleMania.
Yeah, I listen. It's funny, like you said, the amount of the amount of interference that they have in these matches are so overbooked and overdone at this point that they continue to try to give us these surprises, and it's just everybody you expect it to be, right? They did it with Solo Sikoa. It's like, oh, somebody's wearing a hoodie. Who's underneath that? It's Solo Sikoa. For a second tonight, I was like, did they actually bring in Jacob Fatu here in a hoodie? I'm like, is that what they're doing? Do we see the last remaining member of the bloodline who's not in WWE, who's really talented, here showing up in this pay-per-view? Unfortunately, that's not what we got. We got something that made very little sense. These matches with Roman also were it seems very cinematic almost, right? You have him acting out a lot, and you have Paul Heyman acting out a lot. And these types of matches worked a lot better when you had the Thunderdome. That is when Roman Reigns was on fire. Thunderdome Rome, that is the MVP of the Thunderdome, brother.
Yep, between him and Drew McIntyre, right? But all of these Roman Reigns matches, the Cody one was a little different, but his match against Sami Zayn, like a lot of them, his matches against Kevin Owens, same formula. Very slow. Very, very slow. Roman Reigns gets the upper hand early in the match. Eventually his opponent, in this case is Jey Uso, comes back. He's ready to win. And then someone from the bloodline is out, and this time it was Solo Sikoa who came to the interference as they were in photographer row, and Solo Sikoa does the spike, drags him slowly back to the ring. Yeah, Reigns goes for the spear. Jay avoids it, pulls Sikoa into it. Jay then follows up with a spear of his own for a damn close near fall. He gets a chair, starts beating up Sikoa and Reigns with it. Reigns eventually, keeps getting hit with the chair. Sikoa catches Jay with a super kick. And again, all this nonsense, all this back and forth, right? Sikoa attempts to slam Jay through the broadcast table, but Jay slipped away. Jay super kicked Sikoa, who ended up on the table. He went to the barricade and splashed Sikoa through the table. Jay brought Reigns back to the ring, spears him, goes up top, splashes Reigns. Jay covers Reigns, had him beat, and then gets pulled from the ring by a hooded man. And it was Jimmy Uso. Blaine called it. A lot of people called it. Then you get that emotional moment. Why? Why is this happening? With Jay on his knees, and you knew exactly what was going to happen next. And that was a super kick from Jimmy to Jay. Rolls him back into the ring. Jimmy leaves. Reigns looks shocked. Spears Jay through a table. And that was that. In 36 minutes, 5 seconds. That was it.
It took 2 weeks for Jimmy Uso to turn face, then turn heel all over again for literally no reason at all. Entirely unexplainable in every sense of the way. There again, I don't even want to bring up like Jacob Fatu as a option here, but there are so many different options that you could have gotten here with somebody working themselves into the match here. I also, my biggest gripe about any of these matches always is like, why are you going to call it a tribal warfare match when really we're just looking at a hardcore match? It is a hardcore match. It is an everything goes match. What the fuck does this have to do with anything to do with tribes besides the fact that Roman was going to give his, necklace to Jay if he beat him? And that was just at the start of the match. He's like, if you beat me, I'll give you this necklace. It's like, dude, this is for the championship belt. I don't think anybody.
But you know
wants
what? It's
peppers.
It's one of those things
peppers
where
on a string.
Yeah, they kind of made it feel exactly. They kind of made it feel like being the tribal chief was more important than the belt, and that was kind of awkward to start the match. Former old fuck himself, Joe Aguinaldo, he said the ending of the main was a very standard Roman match. Whether that's good or not is the question, and that's literally the question that I have for everybody. Right? We were just talking about this. Every Roman Reigns one-on-one match, actually, almost every Roman Reigns match seems to follow the same formula, right? And that's back and forth 50-50. Then the overbooking and interference starts, and Roman eventually wins.
I don't understand why they just can't make the guy look strong, because he should be booked strong at this point. Like, we are 2+ years into this Roman Reigns reign, and we can't just make the guy look completely strong in the ring. It has to be overly booked. He has to be saved by somebody every single time. And in this case, saved by somebody who's far inferior than him as far as the product goes, WWE. So it sucks that this is the direction we're going in. I don't know where the end is in sight here for this whole bloodline thing. It seems like we're just like, let's break them up, but now we're also going to put them back together again. I really thought that if there was any night to bring The Rock in, this was going to be the night to bring in The Rock. And unfortunately, we are still fantasizing about this happening, and I don't think it ever will happen.
That's kind of where I'm leaning at this point. So again, show started off so good. Then the MMA rules match started, and I feel like the crowd just lost it from then. But let's ask someone who was actually at the show. Tom, thank you so much for being patient with us, and hopefully the connection is good enough for bringing you up. Tom, thank you for joining us here on the after party for SummerSlam. You were there in Detroit, in Ford Field. I got to ask you right away. Was the crowd hot through the night, or were the mics just not working?
Well, I would say from the Logan Paul match up until about the MMA match, it was all hot. I mean, the crowd was on. It was loud in that arena. I've never. I mean, it was absolutely insane. And then, so I have two big problems with the MMA match. One is that no one knew who to root for. You
Yes.
have no baby faces. You have two heels. Nobody knows what to do. I'm sitting there and I'm watching the reel of the whole preview of what the match is going to be. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe we'll get some clarity here. So I'm watching this thing. I'm going, I still don't know who the babyface is. And the minute the match started, I mean, you could just feel the air get sucked out of the arena. Everyone was like heading to the bathroom, going to get food. There was a couple of this is boring chants coming out from my side of the arena. It was getting embarrassed. I was actually cringing at one point because it was so just like can we just put an end to this? This is getting really, really bad. And
Yeah.
when it was finally over, it's like this relief. Everyone was like, oh, thank God it's over. And
It always.
I think at
It's
that
funny.
point, it was like then everything kind of just slowly started to kind of pick up again, but it never really felt like it recovered after that match. It was really, really bizarre.
That's what happens too. Whenever you have the air zapped out of the arena, it's a long lingering effect, right? So my biggest issue leading up to this match is that it could have been so good if you actually gave them like the legit feel of it being an MMA match. But whenever you're going to work in a gimmick into the ring, it never sells properly. And you have probably 50-50 in the crowd who even care about MMA at all, right? Like they're there as a wrestling fan, and to just assume that we like UFC as well is kind of like, I'm not a UFC guy, right? Like I'm all about pro wrestling though. But I get the match.
Yeah.
And Joe,
and
with the comment again, as an MMA fan, I wanted to like the match, and I thought the beginning was interesting, then the middle, and the rest of the match happened.
Well, and then the other thing that the other thing that really kind of bothered me was that if you're going to have the referee explain the rules to both competitors, could you at least throw a mic on the guy so we can all know what's going on? Because I'm sitting there like trying to figure out, okay, what is he saying? Because I'm just reading lips, but I'm not very good at this. So, like, can you interact with the people in the arena? Because I'm sure the people at home probably heard it, but no one there heard it. So we're all just staring at each other going, what is he saying? I don't know. He's talking to them. I have no idea what's going on. And then the match starts. So we're just like, okay, well, now we're officially losing interest in this whole thing. It was just such a disaster.
If you're a fan just walking in on this and you don't get MMA, like you probably want to hear those rules broken down a little bit to kind of understand a little bit more. But at the same time, like, do you really even care? Like once I don't know. I feel like this match really lost interest. Like Joe made the point. As soon as you got to like the middle part of it, you're like, where the fuck are we going with this?
Right.
And when is this going to end? And how quickly can I get up and go to the bathroom so I don't miss the next one? Right. If you're
it was just so like just dead. Just the arena was just so, and coming from being so hot in the beginning and then going up to the Battle Royal, which was, the LA Night Invitational, everything was fantastic. I mean, everybody was on their feet, everybody was just excited, and then it just kind of died off. And then the main event was okay. And I heard what you were saying, Joe, and I mean, Boris, I heard what you guys were saying about it being like this cinematic thing with Roman. That match could have cut about 20 minutes off of it just from the whole pageantry of the whole thing, just the slow walk to the ring, the parading around, the whole thing. I mean, I get that's his gimmick. I understand that, but I mean, it is 12:30. We're trying to go home. Can we just wrap this? By the end of it, it was like, oh, Jimmy just, okay, well, there we go. Okay, I guess this is the way it's going to end. And then everybody just said, okay, time to go. We got to get out of here. We got to beat traffic. It's getting crazy out here.
From a live from just watching this live in person, in the arena, in the stadium, in this case, right? Like, it's a
Hmm.
long night already. You're at this point,
Hmm.
you're already thinking about, man, I gotta get home. And they're just taking a long time to do things. And it's a Roman Reigns match. And here's a fun fact that somebody sent me. The Roman J entrance was longer than the Jake Paul Nate Diaz entrances were. So a wrestling
Oh my
show had
God.
longer entrances than this grand boxing match. So that's just that kind of made me laugh right there. But yeah, man, it just yeah. But what did you
Yeah,
think of the actual match itself?
I thought it was a good match. Honestly, I thought it was good. I thought the ending was a little. I thought again over. Okay, if we're gonna like book Roman strong, can we actually like book Roman strong, not book
Yep.
Roman chicken shit heel, and then he's
Yes.
got 50 guys
Yeah,
coming in.
man.
Like I have no connection to him being this like powerful leader of the tribe and the tribal chief, and we're doing the necklace on a pole match, and everything else is happening, and but then we have Solo coming in, then we have Jimmy interfering, and we've got all this other like, you know, overbooked stuff, and it's like Roman comes out as the victorious, but it doesn't feel like it because he looks actually kind of weak in the end.
No,
And
and you have
Yes.
like Heyman begging for him and stuff like that, right? Like it just doesn't.
yeah,
It's not fitting to like the tribal chief that he's trying to be, and he
right.
should be so much more than that, man. And we're just making him look more and more like a wimp every single time that he's in these main events.
I mean,
I also
if you want to
question that
if
he,
you want to book him strong, you can book him like Brock. If you want to book him strong, book him like Brock, like
yeah.
dominant, coming in, kicking ass, leaving the ring, taking names. But he's just kind of, I don't know. It's just not holding the same kind of heft it did in the beginning. It seems like it's just kind of losing steam as it's going along. And now we got this Jimmy thing going on, and again, I'm fine with it. I thought it was okay, but it's not something that's going to make me tune in on SmackDown on Friday nights. It's just not.
That's the thing, right? Like the storytelling, the promos, all of that they do on the weekly TV is great. But then you remember that formula of a Roman Reigns match, and just you said Roman being chicken shit, right? Like if you're
Hmm.
not booking him strong, you're not really booking him as a tribal chief. Is this what's the end goal? What's the end game? What's the point? What's the payoff? Where's the payoff? The entire payoff for this, Jay storyline was that he got beat twice,
Hmm.
right? Like so
Yeah.
for me, it's I don't know. I don't know what you do at this point. Like, does Roman fight more? Does he just win guys clean, like beat guys clean? I feel like that would just be so. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it almost has to, like, because you kind of you run through the treadmill of overbooking. You don't have anything else there, and you can't just keep tossing other members of the family in there to help Roman, and then you know we're supposed to still believe it at that point. Like I'm not believing it now. I'm like, well, it's a nice little aura he's got, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Yep.
This
LA
is
Knight.
this is all being done. Sorry to interrupt you, Mars, but this is all being done for Cody, and it just seems like we are hanging on to threads at this point just to make Roman look legitimate leading up to the next WrestleMania against Cody for him to take the belt from him. That's all
But
this is about, man.
but
And
and right
it's overdone and
yeah,
tired. It's ridiculous.
and right now Cody looks stronger than Brock. I mean than Roman. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, absolutely. No,
So
absolutely.
no one's
He
gonna
gets
believe it.
Yeah,
he
that's
gets to
exactly
keep
it,
promo
right?
time on Raw every single week, right? And
Hmm.
he also gets to beat Brock, right? And if Roman
Yeah.
was 1-on-1 against Brock right now, I don't think Roman would come out clean on his own against the Beast.
Well, he needed. I think he needed like the Usos and a ring fall apart and a couple of tables and what else did he? I mean, the kitchen sink thrown on there to pin Brock last time. So I don't know. Just never
Yep.
seems to be. It's just sort of frustrating because you know that they can do this, but they're just making it look like it's. They think that this is making him look powerful, and it's just not. He just looks like another guy out there now, which is pathetic. But I mean, this is the booking right now.
Yep, that's exactly right. And it just seems very repetitive. Like it's very different from what we were saying like just a month ago, 2 months ago, and it's just a shame. And I hope that they can correct it. They have time to correct this, but will they?
Absolutely.
I doubt it. Right?
Fingers crossed that they do, because I mean, you still have you got Payback coming up, and then you have Survivor Series, and then Royal Rumble. So you still got a lot of pay-per-views coming before you hit WrestleMania. I mean, what's the next step here? Is it going to be Jimmy versus Jay, and then Roman versus who? I mean, who's the next guy in line?
I'd like to say, I don't know who's next in line for Roman. I've always thought that too. Even Jay being in line against him here at SummerSlam was just kind of recycling this whole main event Jey Uso thing and trying to recapture the fire that they caught originally during the pandemic times. So I don't know who's going to be next here for Roman, but I do think in my heart of hearts, whoever beats Roman is going to retire Roman. I think Roman's going to go off to Hollywood after he loses, and that's it.
I agree.
He's not going to have any rematch or anything.
Here's the thing, and it's almost, I talk about this on the show almost every single week, and that's LA Knight, the curious case of LA Knight, as I like to call it. We saw him win that, that battle royal earlier tonight, and what I'm afraid of is that Vince or whomever is going to say, okay, you guys love LA Knight, we're just going to feed him to Roman now.
Yeah, and that's going to be a mistake, right? Especially because you haven't really the slow walk with LA Knight is kind of frustrating because he's over. I mean, whether or not you like him or not, he's over. Everybody loves to see this guy. They love to hear him talk. They love to see him perform. He is like a guy, but he's not young. So
no,
you kind of, if you're gonna like slow walk this thing, you got to realize you're on the clock here with this guy. He's going to eventually he's going to be 42, I think, or 41. I mean, I'm an old guy myself, so I know these things, but you're gonna have to pick up the pace here. You're gonna have to get on it because it's the clock's ticking, and you have a hot product right now with him, and you can do something with him. Do it, but don't feed him to Roman. I mean, if you're feeding him Roman, the only time you ever feed him to Roman is if he's going over, and he's not going to go over. So pointless.
No.
And that's my fear. Crazy though. That's my fear.
Yeah.
We talk about guys in their prime now, and wrestlers in their prime are like 42, right? Like these guys are like the cream of the crop. Even Randy Orton is still really, really good here at 50 years old. Macho Man was told he couldn't wrestle anymore when he was like 39 years old.
Yeah.
He was told just to be on commentary and that's it.
You put the headset on, Macho, done.
Yeah, we're seeing guys now in the renaissance of their career, the primes of their career. Really, the best version of Eli Drake, LA Knight that we've ever seen here is a 41-year-old version of him. But you're absolutely right. There's about 2 years for you to really pull the trigger on this to make a lot of money off of it and really give the fans what they want for a change. We just haven't had that for a long time.
Yep.
Really. And we need it. We need it.
So Tom, before we let you go, anything else you want to talk about or talk about the live in-person experience before we let you go?
Well, I'm going to say that it was, I've been to a few shows here and there. I think the last one I went to was I believe in Grand Rapids. Wasn't too long ago, but it was okay. It wasn't like this was crazy. This crowd was absolutely nuts. They were just eating everything up. Outside the arena, you hear them, doing the LA Knight chants and everything, and then going in the arena, everybody's just loud, and it was just a real fun experience to have. I mean, it's almost 60,000 people just like into the product, like you had like really into this, and I've never been part of something. I mean, other than I would say when I went to Forbidden Door, this is probably as close to that as I can say, that where everybody was just into it from the start. Except the difference was with Forbidden Door, everyone was still kind of into it, where here it just kind of stopped. So, but otherwise, as far as just a live experience in a crowd that size is unbelievable. I mean,
yeah, you know what? Those stadium shows are something else, man. You just can't beat the roar of 60,000 people together. Forbidden Door was insane, absolutely insane, start to finish, but much smaller arena.
Yeah, definitely. United Center definitely smaller than this is, and I've never been to Ford Field before, so to walk in there and just look around and see the size of this thing, it was unbelievable, and just about every seat was filled. Just about every seat was filled, so it was even more insane.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Tom, thank you so much for joining us.
Mhm.
Don't be a stranger. Call back again after any pay-per-view, PLE that we have an after party for. Always a pleasure chatting with the listeners.
Absolutely, fellas. Have a good night. Good morning,
You too.
as it is.
Yes. Yes.
Thank-
It is 1:34 here in the East Coast. And Eric, the Pauls did the clean sweep.
Yeah, they did the clean sweep. 10 rounds for Jake Paul over Nate Diaz. Thank God I did not bet for a second round knockout. I was gonna put down the whole whopping $50 on it, Boris.
Yep.
But you know what? A good night for the Paul brothers for sure. Got the clean sweep, like you said. Prime is definitely going up a few stocks tonight for sure.
Yep. All right, we have Tom coming at you. Another Tom. We got the Toms today. Not Sandoval and anyways, I'm not even gonna do my Vanderpump rules
Toms.
joke. Two Toms. Tom, we're bringing you up. Hopefully you're ready.
Yes,
How's
hey
it going?
guys. Can you hear me?
What's up, Tom?
Oh,
Yeah,
we
we
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you, brother.
All right. So, because I knew that they dropped 2 matches going in, and both were women's matches, the whole thing was just thrown off for me
Right.
because that's not something I like to see. Right? I like
Yeah.
equality. I like to see people who are not given a chance right? Like a Becky Lynch and a Trish Stratus kind of match would have been better than probably most of the stuff on the event,
Listen,
right?
I'm definitely not disagreeing with you, Tom. It's one of those things that they spent a lot of time building up on Raw, especially Becky versus Trish. But for whatever reason, I don't know. The report I'm seeing is that it was a time constraint thing. I'm not sure if that is the true story or not here. But maybe they just wanted to save Trish for Canada instead and give the Canadian fans what they wanted. I felt bad for both women that they didn't make it to the card. I also felt really, really crappy that we didn't get to see Rhea wrestle tonight. I think Rhea is probably the upper echelon of everything that we see in WWE. But I think that there's some legitimacy to Raquel's actual injury there. And that match is going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to be such a good match. So eventually we will get that. But we did get a few matches tonight, including the lack of the tag team championship match, right? Because Kevin Owens also seems to be shoot injured. So legit injuries have made a, subject to change card definitely change leading up to SummerSlam.
Yep. That's exactly it, man. And I'm just like yeah. It's the irony here is that the two women's matches that we were left with probably weren't the best one. But it is what it is, unfortunately. Tom, what else do you have to say?
I guess, like you were saying, they could have moved the um Ronda match to another kind of area and really did something proper, especially if she is headed back to the USC and to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like
and
look, I feel like in on paper when they planned this match, it seemed like a good idea. You know, Shayna Baszler coming back from adversity. Shayna Baszler getting injured, saying, waving, well, being forced to wave the referees off, and eventually making Ronda pass out in submission. On paper, that's excellent, but the execution was not.
but also the booking of the match was ass backwards, right? Because you look at the promo package, you look at the way they projected Shayna Baszler. She doesn't look like the person that just stabbed her friend in the back and beat her the bleep up.
Yeah. that was the other issue, right?
Person.
That who do you cheer for? Who did you care about? Who was the face? Who was the heel? That match just seemed like you said it was just very weird. You didn't know do you like who do you cheer for? Who do you boo? Do you care? Why should you care? And that's something that I feel like the build up just didn't really hit. So the match itself, on top of it all, had this weird just aura to it.
Yeah, the first time who came on nailed it, man. They didn't know who to cheer for when they were there in the arena, so it zapped a lot out of the arena for that reason.
Yep.
So the Bloodline is just a very popular TV product, right? They drive drive the product on Friday night, right?
Yep.
They bring in the viewers, so that's why they're dragging this thing out. Now, why on a Sunday we have Rhea Ripley interfering 24/7 in a match and destroying that match, and then having everybody come out and help Roman Reigns and destroy this match? I don't know, but the thing is they are prolonging it because it's driving what they need, which is ratings, which brings
Especially
in
right now, right? As they're
Oh, yeah.
negotiating for that new TV deal, they gotta get those ratings, and like them or not, the Bloodline brings in the ratings.
right. Like they're gonna be
Competition
there
has never
when,
been more fierce, man. You have AEW now with 3 shows, right? They've got a Saturday show every single week. So the competition to get up against and to have those ratings has never been more fierce than it is now.
right, because Jay and Jimmy are gonna be over in 2 weeks when we're in Toronto. If they have Trish Stratus in Toronto in Canada, that's just stupid. Because you're going to have Becky Lynch being booed.
Well,
Well, yeah,
it's
that's
going to be
gotta
visually
happen.
booed.
I
That's-
will be there. I will be there booing her if she is going against Trish Stratus. That is going to
Yeah.
happen. And unfortunately, that's how it works in Bizarro World, Tom. You know how it is. Bret Hart, babyface or heel, cheered over the biggest babyface ever as long as he's in Canada, right? So it is Bizarro World, and that's what I love about it. Even CM Punk gets booed to high heaven here in Canada and gets cheered
Exactly.
everybody else.
It's so funny. It's so funny how that's still a thing, right? All right, Tom. Any last words before we let you go?
Question, Boris. You were at the event with me, so did you boo CM Punk like I did?
Yeah. So I was with my nephew, right? And to be 100% honest, on the Collision show, I was more talking with my nephew than anything else. And then at Forbidden Door, I was with a buddy who it was his introduction really to a lot of New Japan, and yeah. I was more with them, enjoying the show with them than participating per se. Would I have booed him? I'm indifferent with him, to be 100% honest.
At Forbidden Door, I was all about Satoshi Kojima. I am a Satoshi Kojima mark, full on.
Love it.
And I have been for at least 10 plus years. So I definitely was anti CM Punk and Forbidden Door. But just like Boris, I'm indifferent to the guy. I feel like he does a lot of good things for the business and ratings, really.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
he could have done a lot of stuff. He could have gone to Tony Khan. He could have fixed things with Cabana, and this would have been a lot about nothing, and nobody would have anything to be mad about. But he hasn't done that, so that's the problem. Now,
That is the
Listen,
problem.
I am all about having Tom call in for like one of the AEW shows to definitely go over more of the CM Punk. The CM Punk moniker that we have going on right now, and that is definitely Collision. If you are a collider, then you are all about CM Punk. So by all means, yeah, you should definitely call in sometime. We could talk collision
Yep.
stuff as well.
Actually, our next after party will most likely be after All In. We're still trying to figure that out. Having that Impact Emergence show really puts a damper on some of our plans, but we'll see what we do. So, we'll talk so much more AEW then. But any final thoughts on SummerSlam, Tom?
Boris, I'm just wondering, you're bringing on everybody and introducing themselves. Now, is there going to be a chance to get Aaron on to one of these programs?
Yeah.
Aaron Grant?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's trust me, it's we're gonna have a all women's SNME roundtable very soon.
Listen,
That
yeah,
sounds like a
we
great
are
idea.
we're dying not only to bring on Aaron to one of these, but also Lyric as well, who is
Yep.
incredible. And listen, there's a lot of great things happening in the network in the background, and you are going to hear all of it. So stay tuned, stick around. Not only will you hear Boris and my velvety voices, but you'll hear some nice ladies talk about some amazing wrestling as well.
Exactly. And what I try to do when I bring in people, right? So if we're talking about, Impact, I'll bring in Eric. If we're talking about AEW, I'll try to bring in Matt and the Matts and Aaron, right? Like, so I try to align things with the hosts of what's going on that week. So I'm literally planning the next few weeks ahead, and that's for sure in the cards, and I'm really excited for that.
So thank you guys, and after all this, I think you guys need to have a good sleep.
Oh, my night's just beginning. I have to, post this show, post it on all the feeds, and then I have to write the slam report. So I feel like my night's just starting.
And then you have to do the Sunday show.
Exactly. Got to turn around real quick and do the Sunday show. Get that out as fast as possible. So, Tom, thank you so much for all of your support, for always calling in, for always chatting, having great opinions. We really do appreciate it. And we hope that we can get you back at our next after party.
Excellent.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate having you, brother.
Take care. All right. So, if no one else is going to be coming up, then I think it is time for us to call it a show, because it is almost 2 a.m. here on the East Coast. And
we're 12 minutes away from old school last call at this point. I am far too old to know now what actually last call is. I think it's like 3 or 4 a.m. in Toronto.
It's 2. It's 2. Well,
it's
a lot of liquor
okay.
licenses have the 4:30 a.m. last call now. So yeah, this is first call for last call. But this is going to be our last call for anyone wanting to give us your feedback on SummerSlam, because we do have a lot to come up. I think Aaron and Matt are going to be chatting all things Collision on the network. We also have the main show, the flagship show, where, like I said, Chris Van Vliet and I, we're going to be chatting the live experience, and we're going to man, he's been so busy this past week, so we're going to catch up with him on all things wrestling. Then we're going to turn it around and do our weekly SNME roundtable, where we chat mainly Dynamite 200 and SummerSlam. So you're going to want to leave it locked in here on SNMEradio.com. And if you want to be part of the family, always remember to go to patreon.com/SNMEradio, because for just $5 a month, you get to, the lights are kept on for another month. That's really where the funds go for the Patreon. But again, thank you so much, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or podcast version. Thank you so much, Eric. Always a pleasure chatting some wrestling with you.
Thanks for having me on always, and I look forward to being on the main show. And you can catch me also on the Draw Straws review on Monday and Impactful every Friday.
There we go. He's Eric. I'm Boris. Until next time, stay tranquilo.